And while we're on roll call, yes, Jeff Human has decided to, he's too busy, so he's gonna stay with Planning Commission, but we have an opening, and Bob Hyde has volunteered to be the liaison. However, it must go in front of the Board of Trustees for approval, which will be next Tuesday. So.
Consequently, I'm sitting out here.
Yep.
Welcome. Thank you.
So we have 3 Bobs. That'll be fun.
I heard you had to be Bob.
Roy, what's your middle name?
Sometimes you have to weave too.
Has everybody read through the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah.
And any changes or additions? Not to the motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move. Support.
Public comments? Bob?
Should we vote on
Oh, I'm sorry. Vote, to adopt the agenda. Yes, I'm sorry, that's right.
On.
All in favor, right? It's not it's not finances, but yes, I. We're gonna get through this meeting really fast.
That's make up for last meeting.
Public comments? Oh, there's a hand raised.
Yep. Kathleen, you wanna go ahead, Kathleen Brandt?
Hi, it's Kathleen Brandt, Scio resident. This might be a little bit off topic, but I think it's good for all residents to know that MDOT has a plan to on Huron River Drive from the Foster Bridge all the way into someplace in Ypsilanti. They plan on putting up an 8-foot fence around the railroad tracks, on both sides of the railroad tracks, clear cut all the vegetation on Huron River Drive, and have no crossings to the river. So it effectively blocks off the river on Huron River Drive, and there's implications on the Ann Arbor side for the ARB and other things. So just thought people should know about that, because I believe folks are just hearing about it, and it's been in the works for upwards of 2 years. If you're not happy with that, the clear cut, they're taking away parking, the access to the river, then you can make some comments to MDOT. I think you can find that on their webpage. Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other hands?
I don't see any other hands raised at the moment.
Okay. There were no, communications or correspondences that we did have, but this didn't come to RAC. It went to the board regarding the sidewalk oversight, but there's a lot of discussion with that, and because I guess this came up before. Do you remember when
Which sidewalk?
I'm sorry, from Scio Ridge Upland Drive to
South Church and all that, yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of in the same position as what it was before, because I guess WCRC didn't want to put in a culvert. There would have to be a culvert there going. There's a retention or detention pond by it's in between some of the homes and Scio Church Road, and there was something about a culvert, and WCRC didn't want to put a culvert there, and that kind of squashed the whole thing. This is back in the day. I'm just repeating what I heard, so I mean I could be off on some of the details. You know,
I mean, I'm not sure.
I don't know how.
You must be talking about on South Ridge Road, maybe further north from Uplands. I guess I'm not sure what you're talking about.
It's on Scio Church Road, so that, you know, the Uplands, and then there's Scio Church, and then it goes over to Oak Valley, but and then there's a retention or detention pond right there from Uplands and Scio Church. And that's part of the easement, I guess, for WCRC, and this was years ago, but I'm only repeating what it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there was a public meet, I mean, I attended a public meeting on the phase one of that project, which is connecting the neighborhoods. And that we told the people, if there's interest in doing more, they're gonna have to contact, you know, the township and find out if there ever will be a future phase. The phase is under construction right now, is, you know, that's all that's currently planned. You know, there's some talk about going further this way or that way, but nothing, you know,
So was Scio Church Road sidewalk brought up?
yeah, at the public meeting.
Okay.
Last Thursday.
Okay. And right now, yeah, it's just kind of on hold, but I mean, it's there. There's also another project on Dexter, Ann Arbor and Wagner regarding connecting, sidewalks there's a bus stop over there, but there's no shelter but that's not part of the DDA, so those are on the radar, both of those. But that, regarding correspondences, that was the only thing that came through and that came to the board. Let's see, no discussion, well, I mean, or presentation, so I mean, we can discuss things. The Road Advisory Committee resolution and continue review of charges. So we started that that was June. So we had a long break during the summer.
So you're on G1,
Yes, G1.
unfinished business.
Mhm.
We were discussing changing the charge that we were originally given by the board.
So okay, E1.
Put together
Okay.
the notes for the meeting. Jillian got them. Remember, I put together the notes, you got them.
And I included, yeah, because we have the charge here, but then your notes, the draft would be in the next page from June 2023. Yeah, sorry, this thing printed off was very strange. This is the township to ensure, yeah, okay, well, and with our original charge, there was a couple of things that we wanted to change. Now, so we talked about SEMCOG and Clerk Jessica or Flintoff, Manager Joyce Parker, Jan Culbertson. There's a Kathy, she's on the environmental sustainability, Jessica Witch, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I butchered her last name. And then myself. So we did meet with SEMCOG, but it was just kind of like, this is what we do. When really, the whole point of us meeting was for transportation planning as a whole. Because, you know, this whole thing with busing and sidewalks and all this stuff everybody's talking about, or a lot of people are talking about it. So we are having another meeting Friday with the transportation advisor from SEMCOG. His name is Kevin. So for right now, it's been advised for us just to focus on the roads at this point, and if anything changes in the future. But for right now, we can make changes or suggestions and give that to the board for a recommendation if we want to change anything. So could we just go through this first, our regular charge, and kind of place here? I'll give that back to you. Yeah, could you do that, please?
Yeah,
Would you be able to?
Charge changes document.
Yeah, that's a good,
just give me a minute.
sure, thanks.
Whether I can put it on the screen is one thing. Let me just,
Do you have to
because I have it here locally, I don't have it up on that one, but if I can share my screen, it may go up there. Let's have a look. Okay,
The original charge.
yep. So this is the original charge. You want the new one?
Went to sleep.
Want that one?
Yes. And there is a F and G.
There you go.
Impressive, man.
You just tell me what you want and I'll get it.
So the idea is to read the original charge and then do a compare and contrast.
Okay, we have that in the packet as well.
Yeah,
It starts on page number 3, I believe, of the packet.
Well, it
Sorry,
would be,
page number 5. I've got this little thing in the way of my screen that I can't quite read things.
right, 3 and 5, right?
5, page 5.
We want to have somebody read one and read the other and
Sure.
do it that way.
yeah.
This is what we did in the June meeting.
We looked at it.
We looked at it and we made some notes. Yeah, you were
Yeah,
you were
everyone
here.
had comments and I put it all together.
We're trying to vote on something so that we send it to the board. Then
Maybe.
And so, Bob, your notes are these ones down here that I'm showing.
Well, we both made notes as people were talking and then we just kind of,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Wow, that was.
And I summarized everybody's
Right.
Yeah.
thoughts, that's all.
Who wants
So
to-
just to be clear, so, okay, just obviously it's A through K and then there's A through
G.
G. So the township board, so let's say we vote to pass A through G, the one we draft, change charge, that one. We would push that towards the board of trustees and let them then consider if they would allow that change. I'm trying to
Sure,
understand the
because
process.
they would have to read it and if they say, no, we want you to keep this or eliminate this or whatever, or they'll just say,
Well, it wasn't so much elimination. When you say AG, AK, it was consolidation.
Right, yeah,
Some of the things were kind of redundant.
no.
yeah,
Because when I compare the two, they look pretty similar. I don't see a whole lot of difference. I
Okay.
mean, there's letters, there's less letters, but we're overall it's the same to me,
Yes.
nearly the same scope. We just tried to refine it. But that's what I'm just saying, I spent a lot of time, it's like, okay, at the end, let's say we agree to do this option B, I guess. If that first was option A, this is option B. I'm just trying to understand the process and we were to vote on it and then we moves up there, then they agree that charge it. Okay, that's what I'm just trying to.
no, you're right.
Cause I don't wanna spend a lot
Right.
of time on something, if it's sort of like, it's not gonna go anywhere, you know?
Well, and we need a refresher too, because it's been, since June.
Okay,
maybe we should ask if anyone had any concerns. To it, they are very, very similar.
yeah, I said, yeah, if you can, if we were consolidated, I mean, I think you did a good job, I think.
Oh, yeah, like collaborate with the downtown or the DDA, and the DDA doesn't have that in their charge. In fact, they didn't even know we had it in our charge.
And we took
Where are you
TAP
seeing
out.
that?
and we changed.
What point is that? The DDA one?
Oh, that's J.
J, okay.
So we do have that in here, yeah. So J on the original is F
F.
now. Okay. There was perform special studies task as is delegated by the board. Oh, that's it. That's the same as K. All right.
I didn't eliminate anything. It's not a wordsmith and consolidate. We're good.
I mean, I'm fine with the changes, say the truth.
Okay, and then, so then integrate sidewalks, pathways, but you don't have or not you personally, but the PPP, they don't have sidewalks in their charge.
Yes and no. There's some, if we're doing a sidewalk in a park type thing, so that, it's sort of vague when the whole, let's say, if it was a township-wide sidewalk initiative, no. But let's say you're connecting a park to a park type thing. I think there's language sidewalks would be.
Would that be sidewalk or trail?
Well, there's sidewalk, pathway, there's all those. So let's say, because right now the Van Curler Preserve is up here on River Drive, right? And Dexter here on Metro Park is up here on River Drive. And let's say we decide we want to put a sidewalk between the two parks, Township's Park and the Metro Park. Then, yeah, so that could be, I mean, right now we're looking at gravel, soft surface trail. But let's say, you know, there's another situation where we wanted to put a sidewalk connecting parks. So yeah, so sidewalks are really, but let's say someone said, hey, I'd like to have sidewalks throughout the township. And it's sort of like, that's not parks, pathways, and preserves. That's gonna be a whole nother committee or
We'll get to
whatever.
that thing.
But parks, I mean, if we're connecting parks, yeah, it's sidewalks, gravel pathways, you know, asphalt pathways, narrow, wide. I mean, those are all things, different tools, I guess, in the parks, pathway, and preserves charge, figuring out ways to connect, you know, those things together.
Who oversees that aspect for the community? If it's not the PPP, is it the planning committee or?
I mean, let's say a township-wide sidewalk initiative,
Yeah, where are they going?
I don't really know.
Well, okay, so how it generally works is that if a development is going in, a new development, then usually the planning commission says you need to have sidewalks, either, you know, in the development, or if it's on a main road, then, you know, and then that's where we get into trouble, because we have like over with, I'm sorry, Scio Ridge, all those developments went in, but they didn't think about connecting them. So then here we are, and then that ended up falling under the PPP. No, actually, because we had ARPA funds pay for that.
Right. Originally it was gonna be half roads. At one point it was gonna be part bus millage, part roads, and part PP3. And back then it was TAP. When the whole thing started, it was TAP. Then I did, yeah, ARPA funds ended up funding the whole thing, so.
And do we have sidewalk gaps any? Well, that's,
Well, I mean, it depends on, yeah, there's probably sidewalk gaps all over the township, depending how hard you wanna go.
you know,
Somewhere there's gotta be collaboration between us, and I'm suggesting PPP in lieu of anybody else. And if nothing else, it goes to the board, this goes to the board, and the question then can get raised to the board with E to say, okay, who does oversee?
and I
Who
have,
does integrate and collaborate? So, you know, what I'm saying here is just don't let it be separate factions and then something gets lost in the sauce like we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why the one in Upland, I mean, there's actually neighborhoods we're connecting, there's parks we're connecting. So that's why I was sort of, you know, obviously it's mainly it's kids in school buses, the bus route. That's why the whole thing became like a collaboration. I'm thinking, you know, other ones, if it's not like parks involved or preserves involved, I think it's gonna be a stretch to take those monies to do PP3 money. Obviously, I don't make those decisions, I'm just one person on the committee, but.
and the type of there's a public commenter. Go ahead.
He's a semi-member, so I guess I can consider him.
In the Parks, Pathways, and Preserves charges, number 12 is to maintain collaboration with the Scio Township Planning Commission, Roads Advisory Committee, Land Preservation Committee, and Downtown Development Authority to provide advice, support, and assist these bodies in implementing of alternate transportation planning, which I would say sidewalks fall into that. So PPP has that charge. I would think all the ones that are listed within that charge ought to have a similar one. Okay, so that's what I was saying.
Okay, so that's another recommendation, is for them to look at the PPP, what did you say, there was land preservation, DDA?
Yeah, it's the Planning Commission, Roads Advisory Committee, LPC, Downtown Development Authority.
Okay. We can create our draft with a note at the bottom with these, we're finding gaps. And yes, and there is Manager Joyce. we've had conversations about a project manager. So so somebody that would oversee that and, like for special assessments and different things. So I think that they would be able to collaborate, or to look at the big picture and then have PPP pay for the sidewalks. I'm kidding.
I mean, under item B, that's in the charge change, that B, assist the township to ensure that the maintenance improvements to public roads consider safety issues such as fire and emergency response, as well as pedestrian non-motorized transportation, react to public comments as they arise regarding these issues. So I mean, and I think, end of the day, we're trying to integrate, I mean, there's a lot of different subcommittees doing a lot of different things, and at the end of the day, it's not like it's just this silo, it's really, we're all working in this together, and depending on where
But
where it is, who's really gonna take the lead? Is it gonna be RAC? Is it gonna be parks? Is it gonna be planning? Is it gonna be some other? So,
On a really practical measure, I think if a citizen request comes in by email to the township, it would be nice to have the township know which group to send sidewalk inquiries to. And it could be either, really, but in order to not get lost in the sauce, the best way is to give them a direct line that says, okay, if it says sidewalks, shoot it here, we'll research it, we'll get back to you. I don't know if that's an RAC or a PPP, but
yeah. All right, I'll make another note, talk with manager about that.
They make it an assignment, and somebody takes the responsibility and the ownership.
Mhm.
It really doesn't matter which group, as long as somebody knows they have that task.
Yeah, so we definitely know we have roads. And you know that you have parks. So we've got that clear, but these little things. And also such as fire and emergency response, as well as consider safety issues. Well, the fire department, they review if a private road goes in or is approved, or any other road, they're going to review that before it is approved by the township. So what are we doing with this fire and emergency response?
my suggestion would be, and I can name 3 right off the top of my head that were 15 or 20 years ago built. The fire department gave their approval at that time, and now the bushes have grown in over the dirt road. And there's no way that a fire truck can get back out other than pull straight in and pull straight out. So in our reviews of culverts and road conditions, I think our observation of potential disturbances that need to be done in order to make the fire department happy.
Yeah, and that
It's
makes
a
sense.
public safety thing.
Yeah, and I know that with our new fire marshal, they're making notes of the different, as they go about the township, making different notes. But yeah, we could definitely help them. Okay, as well as, all right, so is B good? Yeah. All right, C, evaluate funding options, including special assessments, state and federal support, WCRC matching funds, developer contributions, property owner participation, millages for the township's road network in near and long-term yeah, and would like to put grants in here, not that we would be, but if we, if we're reading different things in the township, whatever we're involved in, and you see something that talks about a grant, and if that grant can, be used for roads, let's make sure that maybe somebody on the committee could be like, oh, I'm going to talk with the manager about grants or whatever. But because we get a lot of, and I have been talking to our manager about grants, and she's in the process of hiring different people, staff for departments and whatnot. But we would like to, and she's in agreement to take advantage of as many grants as possible, at least apply for them, because hopefully we'll get them.
For matching funds. Names after matching funds in that sentence, comma. Matching funds, grants.
I was gonna try and edit a document, like I just got the text, but it didn't paste in very well. But if I could do it on the fly, then we could literally vote on it and get it to the board,
Okay.
rather than,
So I think so, under C, after matching funds, comma,
Hey,
and
you gotta-
before developer contributions.
hang on,
Insert,
I gotta find it.
right, plug in the middle, left side paragraph.
Matching funds,
Grants.
Somehow we get all squished together.
When he pasted it in Word.
Oh.
yeah, that's the whole problem, that's
That's
what I'm
okay.
saying.
Oh,
Matching funds, developing the property owner,
all right, go back. You had it right there.
Right where your cursor is.
yeah, grants,
Grants. Space. Cool.
is that it?
That's it.
You keep talking, I'll try and get this,
Help with American English.
Collaboration with the WCRC and outside contractors.
Yeah, what does that mean? Collaborate with the WCRC and outside contractors on all projects pertaining to the township. Hmm. Would that be under a project manager?
So we didn't have one.
Oh, there will be one. I mean, right now, we're not doing anything with,
I guess I look at what does it harm?
Yeah.
I mean, if it never really comes up, we might wouldn't want to collaborate with these, right? Without WCRC and outside contractors. And if they hire a project manager and that person does all that work and we don't, but it's still in there, I guess I don't see a harm in keeping it. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
I guess.
I went back and looked, I'm not sure what one it used to be under.
Oh,
We collaborated with the WCRC on that, what was it, Park Ridge? So, potential SAD, that kind of thing.
I think it's a good way to put it because the citizens will send an email to the township. And then the question is, does the township send it just to the project manager, but we don't know if it's dealt with, or do they send it to the RAC? And then we collaboratively work with the project manager and we have a checks and balances system.
So, yeah, so I mean, to me, it makes sense, because and the road commission doesn't own these roads, so before we decide to do something.
That's true, right? Yeah, and outside contractors, well, I guess we'll have to, yeah, and if it's. Okay,
Just one simple item on this, and I think it's obvious to everyone, but do we need to say townships roads rather than just leave it projects with the township?
right, because that sounds like on all projects in the township that we will be no matter what the,
All
yeah.
road projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, yeah, and all, let's put in road,
Or D,
yeah,
the end of
D,
the sentence.
Yeah.
that would be on.
D,
On all, D, on all road projects pertaining to the township.
Does that mean grading of dirt roads, gravel roads,
Grading,
grading and
Me.
gravel lifts and all of the schedule? Okay, cool.
I'm sorry,
Thanks for letting me butt in.
yeah, sure. But only a little bit, you're not full number yet. Partner with the Parks and Preserves, okay, and this is where,
This is where we pull tap out.
yes, right, 'cause that's. And if you could, well, I guess that would be a note, we don't have to include that in the charge, just, it's gonna be a side note or another page.
No,
Yeah, because we wouldn't be including the footnotes in the resolution, this is just to make them aware that, because PPP has it in their charge, I think everything should be congruent. Now, the DDA, have they reviewed their,
it is not directly in their charge, so we're going to have to make a change. Or do I misspeak?
I just remember it wasn't in there, but I don't know,
We have not changed.
you haven't changed it, okay. Ruined charges or resolutions, okay. So should we include in our charge, I mean, we have PPP and DDA, but what about, I mean, LPC, that's just land preservation, they really don't have much to do with roads, but on the planning commission, yeah, I think we need to add that. Should we have so E is for the PPP, F is for DDA, should we have EFG or make G
G, the
the
new one and
the planning commission? And then the last one would be,
Perform special studies tasks as delegated.
I'm sorry,
I mean, like this. You wanna make G
for the PC,
PPC.
no, just the PC. Planning commission. Yeah, probably should spell it out, or planning commission and PC. Should we use partner or collaborate?
One in E and one in F, so we could go partner, collaborate, partner. Let's choose partner.
Or should we just make them all collaborate? I don't know, whatever, it doesn't, as long as.
The planning commission.
Well, how about,
There isn't number I in the current charges.
oh, wait a minute, partner with the, oh yeah, the TAP. Oh, and planning commission, oh my gosh, you know what, how about, let's go back to E. Partner with the planning commission and parks, preserves and pathways. And then it's basically the same as what Bob just said.
Partner with the
Hi.
planning commission and committee. Okay.
H,
I will
bring
in
it
a
up to
minute.
G
I
again.
will in a minute, yeah.
Partner with the planning commission and parks, yeah.
Can everybody see this okay?
Yeah.
Zoom a lot more.
That's good.
And then, I think we should take out perform special studies and tasks as delegated by the board, because you never know what they're gonna give us.
It was
No.
in the original
I know.
charge, and we certainly could.
I mean, yeah, it's like, we're not cleaning toilets, sorry. But who knows, let's leave it in there, there could be something
Right, because let's say someone gives the township a bunch of money to fix roads.
that'd be nice,
So,
wouldn't
so,
it?
hey,
Should we include culverts?
I think when we're talking about roads, we're talking everything with roads, because I mean, start breaking things out like culverts, bridges. You start all the, you wanna start itemizing all these
I see.
roads, we're talking about
It's a road project. We got it
everything.
covered in D.
Okay. Okay,
Do we need to clarify that, like roads and?
Well, I just think, we're talking about roads and, we're talking about everything in the road, you know, we're not talking about, not talking
I
about
see.
ditches, we're not talking about
All right.
culverts. We can lose out a whole long list and now we forgot something.
Yeah, Yeah, the mouse that lives under the culvert, yeah.
Would there be a question of culverts? Like
Well, I
where,
think we're already,
aren't culverts part of the road system
that's what
usually?
I'm saying, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's
Oh, okay, I
That's
see
what
what
I'm
you're
saying.
saying. Okay, sorry.
Road, when you talk about roads in general, we're talking about everything in the road right of way.
As long as that's generally understood, it's fine, I think.
Yeah. I think you said listing things, that's, you forget something and miss something.
Do we,
Save questions for public comments. Does that also include utilities that run under the road? Who's keeping track of that? Is it the road commission or is it our utilities department?
Well, our utilities department is keeping track of our water, sewer,
Sewer.
stuff owned by the township.
Right.
And then, let's say stuff owned by, DTE Gas or Consumers Power, AT&T, all the fiber, they're keeping track of all the facilities they own.
Do we have to keep track of that when we're planning a road improvement?
no, because if we had a road improvement and WCRC would have to be involved unless it's a private, but they would, yeah, they would,
Coordinate that?
yes.
Okay.
You'd hire an engineer would contact all the private and public utility companies, find out, okay, where are all these underground things? Because we want to do a set road improvement, put in a new culvert, put in a new bridge, put in whatever.
Okay, so we have 9 members and we're having, well, I mean, it's on our website to fill the 9th. We haven't had any nibbles, but we haven't really announced it either. Well, I did in the article in the newsletter, I believe. But did that go out? Yeah, I think everybody received that. Do we need 9 members? How many are on the PPP? P3?
I don't know.
Aren't you the chair?
Yeah, I'm a co-chair, it's not like I keep track of all that stuff, I have other things to worry about that. It's probably in that, 7 maybe. Let's see
Well, what about the DDA? Is there 7? Yeah, so I think every other committee's 7.
There 9 at P3? Yeah.
Oh, you have 9?
I guess so.
How's that
I
working?
believe that.
Does everybody show up? Have you
For the
had?
most part, I mean, not every meeting, but we have 7 to 9 every meeting. I mean, obviously people have
Okay,
lives and they miss meetings, but that's fine.
do they? Okay. So should we keep it at 9?
I'd keep it at 7. We've got 8.
Yeah, we have 8 now, but we can continue with the 8. And then when we have our new year, somebody, I don't know. It just,
Something to think about.
it's a, yes, and if you know of anybody that's interested in roads, please.
Been actively recruiting.
Yeah. No, I think pathways are more fun. I mean, like there's,
So right now, the committee says it's 7 residents and 1 liaison to the board. So actually, we do.
well, then we also had another resolution for another person.
Okay. So it's now 8 plus 1.
Yes. That was the second resolution, was to add.
Okay.
Okay,
Respectfully submitted by the RAC.
Yeah,
oh, please, at the bottom, put, notes. The board, to bring to the board's attention that these other committees should be congruent with their resolutions, the same as the PPP and RAC or something like that. And who the hell is supposed to do sidewalks? Or the types of different, there's sidewalks kind of fall into a weird gap.
Is that a second note at the bottom of the resolution change request?
Yeah. All All right, and I believe, we are subject to the Open Meetings Act, and Jim Fink is coming down with, or he's coming down on the township in the committees about the Open Meetings Act, and he's suggesting that the board pass a resolution or for a policy regarding Open Meetings Act, and there's only, I guess, if it's the Environmental Sustainability Task Force is not a committee, it's an advisory to the Planning Commission, so they are not subject, even though they make, yes, which yeah, he brought it up regarding the different committees and some are under the Open Meetings Act and some aren't, but all of us need to be from now on. And the chair of all the committees is responsible to make sure that their committee follows, just because you're a co-chair, right? And you're not
I'm a nothing
you're a
right now.
secretary, aren't you?
Oh,
Okay.
at the DDA.
Yeah, the DDA.
So once the board adopts whatever that formal policy is, I'm sure you'll let us know
Oh, yes,
what the language is, other than
it will go up.
protocol for open meetings that we're aware of.
And I did, yes, and it's in our charge, I believe, but, well, it is, but, I also asked Jim, to be clear on, like, give us some examples, what could be a violation, just to, to educate everybody. And there's some other things there too. Okay, and I think, that's it for the changes. Can we mark this?
Is there any other footnotes that you wanted?
You have the bring the board's attention.
The change to this resolution should be covered by the committees.
Yes, for, and then put, PPP, LPC, RAC, and DDA. Those seem to be, because we're all kind of connected to each other in a way. I can see why,
PPP,
LPC.
LPC. We are RAC, but I'll post that.
and then another note about sidewalks, so we can get clear on that.
What's the note? Oh, who looks after sidewalks?
Yes.
If they could categorize,
And we might suggest RAC or PPP under their bylaws or the resolution.
or the type, yeah. Unless you wanna,
Well, as opposed to giving them a global question, let's narrow it down, so we're trying to answer this question specifically.
and then when we have our transportation planner advice, because I think they wanna lump everything in together, but we're still not there yet, but for now. Okay,
I move we adopt the
Hang on.
charge changes as amended, as currently being typed. Sorry.
so everything else will be the same except for the charges. So that'll be easy to plug in. We'll have to give them the original and then the side, or the draft, so they can maybe read it.
Just give them the draft.
Yeah, we vote on it.
We don't need them wordsmithing us too.
We can vote on it.
Well, they have the final say.
Yeah. Any other notes?
Anybody else?
I would put respectfully submitted by the RAC and with that.
Yeah, put a date on it, yeah.
Yes.
Or the date was in the resolution. I put a date on it,
We should be able to get this on the next agenda.
Right.
Yeah, because I think today's Wednesday. Yeah, but we have a deadline. I can't remember which one it is, because usually. Okay, I'll talk, okay, that's it? Go ahead and we'll vote. Motion,
I move whatever resolution
I'll
was.
Said adopt the RAC charges as amended.
Yep,
October 4th, 2020.
I'll second.
and should we do a roll call vote?
Let's do a roll call vote for a change. Kerry,
Yes.
Hubert,
Yes.
Walsh, yes. Groden,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes,
Townsend.
Yes.
motion passes.
Excellent. Nice work,
Great.
Bob.
Thank you. Mark that off our to-do list. Well, for now. Okay.
Come back.
Am I allowed to send these to the committee?
Oh, to all of us?
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
okay.
Yeah, and then we'll just,
And then that way, I'm assuming you'll take it to the BOT.
I have a weekly meeting with Joyce on Thursday, so I will give this to her to include in the agenda.
So we're on to G2.
Yep, road maintenance improvement planning and funding continued. Bob, thank you for your presentation. Would you like to share that? I know well, Roy, you worked on that too, didn't you?
And Patrick.
Patrick.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, that's,
Patrick. He's here. But Bob, he's mostly the author, so we'll let him walk us through this.
Unless, is it too complicated to take notes and do what you're doing at the same time?
Presentation is in the deck, so let's get through it and then we can talk about.
This is it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
In putting this together, we said, all right, and again, these are rough numbers. The township basically has 60 miles of public roads. And again, public, not including private. 30 gravel, 30 paved. That covers the local roads, the connector roads, and the public subdivision roads. Obviously, most residents, and I hate to say all, but most, because there could be someone who disagrees, would prefer the roads to be in good shape because there are numerous benefits to the community of that. So the goal of this was, how do we gain voter approval for a millage to maintain all 60 miles of township roads? And do it cost effectively. And since everyone likes to know the answer up front, we just put it in there. We think, and again, because we got some numbers, it's gonna be approximately 1.36 million. We'll get to the numbers. Based on a taxable value of 1.6 billion, that amounts to a millage of about 0.85. And we said 6 years. That's up for debate, and that's one of the open issues at the end. I think the May 9th Board of Trustees meeting recommended something less than 10 years because of Headley Amendment concerns. Keeping this, it goes back to the voters, it really should be tied to a national election rather than an off year, so it's 4 seemed too short. It was a choice between 6 and 8. 6, for reasons we'll get into, made the most sense to make the numbers easier. But again, that's an open question to the board on how long they want to make it. So how was the cost derived? We know that there were a bunch of the gravel roads covered by the expired township-wide SAD. We know there are gravel roads not covered. We know that they're paved roads, and we've had the open issue of culverts. So those are the 4 items that went into the calculation. What we didn't include were roads covered by some other governmental agency or private roads. This is just to make sure people know that we're not talking about I-94 or any other roads that the county or state maintain. So let's tackle the gravel roads. We know gravel roads require periodic overlay of limestone. If the roads have already been previously updated per the SAD, they pretty much need a layer of 4 to 6 inches approximately every 6 years. If they haven't been, it's going to be 8 to 12. Going back through, and again, there isn't a clear definition of what is or isn't covered in the SAD. Going back through a document that was submitted, I believe, by David Reed, he had what he thought was included. In that document, there were some paved roads. There were also gravel roads. The gravel roads totaled about 24 miles. So that's what we used for this. the math is fairly easy to change if we need to. I took the paved roads out because it's not pertinent to this part of the discussion. So essentially 24 miles of gravel road we believed were maintained per the SAD. Therefore, they need a periodic update, approximately every 6 years, of about 4 to 6 inches of limestone. We know that there are also, well, the roads that haven't been covered, as I said, we probably need 8 to 12. And that's about 6 miles. The estimate for the 4 to 6 inch layer of limestone per mile is about $80,000. 160, because we're just doubling it for the miles that weren't maintained. So if you're looking at it and we have 24 miles that were done for the SAD, that means we're maintaining about 4 miles every year for 6 years of the millage at about $320,000 per year. We assumed we would do the 6 miles that weren't covered, 1 mile per year each of the 6 years. That can be changed. That's still an open issue, which we'll cover at the end. That would be $160,000. So under this assumption, the annual cost for maintaining the township-wide gravel roads public is about $480,000. Paved roads, a little more complicated. The assumption is we are not paving any roads, but we needed a starting point. So year 1, you pave a road. Year 2, you apply the rapid penetrating emulsion to seal the road up and make it last longer. Year 5, you go back and you seal any cracks on the road. Year 10, you do the same thing. Year 15, you do a mill and fill, which is take the top 2 inches off, grind it up, put it back down. Once you've done that, the next year you have to apply the emulsion again. And then years 20 and 25, you crack seal until you're back at year 30, which is time to mill and fill again. Essentially with 30 miles of road, ideally, again, this is an ideal situation, you're doing, each mile is covered in this 30 miles or 30-year stretch. We'd have to go ultimately and look at the roads to assess that, but for the sake of argument, that's what we assume. So essentially you're talking about 2 miles of mill and fill each year, 2 applications of the emulsion, and 4 miles that are getting crack sealed. The estimate for a mill and fill is approximately $350,000 per mile. The estimate for the emulsion is approximately $15,000 per mile, and crack seal is $12,000 per mile.
I have a question. The RPE application, that's the brown that, is that the newer?
Yeah, then it turns black, yeah. So it's like, it's similar to stuff you put on your driveway. It's just more, it sets up a lot quicker. It's rapid penetrating, so it sets up. Like when you do your driveway, generally you're not supposed to drive on your driveway for, 24, 48, 36 hours. Obviously, we do someone's road, they're gonna wanna be on it within so many hours. So it's the same type of product, just a little, it's modified so it sets up quicker.
So how, so you do that for a newer,
Right.
but how many years, could it be like a 5-year road that you could do this? Or
Depends on
no?
the trend. You wanna do it before it gets, cause dirt gets in those openings. So this way you try to do it as soon as possible, cause there's a bunch of dirt and fine particles in there. Then this material won't penetrate and seal up the cracks. So that's why you wanna do it sooner versus later. If it was a road that really didn't get much traffic, potentially yes, but sooner is better. We did it on North Delhi, and then this year, the road commission did it on North Delhi 2 years ago, and this year they did it on a court off of Wagner Road, which I forget the name.
Oh,
It's on-
the Wagner Ridge Court.
Oh, there we go, thank you.
I'm remembering something called a chip seal. That's not the crack seal. I mean, by terminology, crack seal sounds like if there are any cracks, there are the lines that they paint in. But chip seal is where they spread it over the whole surface. It gives it a wearing, higher wear characteristic.
Right, so chip seal is similar to the rapid penetrating emulsion. So you put, it's both an emulsion, you put emulsion, and with the chip seal, you put this emulsion on a little bit thicker, and then you put stones on it so you can drive on it. The challenge is in subdivisions, people are not real big fans of chip seal, because then you got all these little stones rolling around.
Sure.
So that's why this emulsion, rapid penetrating, is the same type of product. It's thinner, it dries quicker, it penetrates in. The chemical makeup's a little bit different, but it's similar. So yeah, chip seals work great, but people are not fans in the neighborhoods.
For more of a higher traffic road.
Yeah,
That's,
Like Marshall Road, right outside of the Dexter, school bus
Yep.
building and lot, they chip seal that.
Right. So would you chip seal in some places?
yeah, I guess there's probably, yeah, I mean, that's a good catch, because there are probably less than maybe 3 miles of local paved, what we call collector roads.
So we have to
Like
pay.
that section of Marshall,
Right,
that
right.
section of North Delhi, that section of Delhi, East Delhi, south of the Metro Park.
Yeah.
So there are
Did it, yeah.
a quarter mile, you know, it's like half mile here, quarter mile here, quarter mile here. So it might be a couple miles of,
Is it more expensive than the RPE or is it?
no,
equivalent?
it's about, yeah, it is, it's about 30,000.
So if you budget,
First, we should figure out how many miles there are.
yeah, it's a small wrinkle in the math.
Yeah.
Basically. It's gonna disappear, yeah.
Bob, could you include that somewhere?
Good catch.
So basically,
Yeah.
this budgeting 2 miles is essentially assuming a 15-year rotation, basically.
Yes.
So the first 6 years, we're only gonna get like 12 miles done, basically.
And that's when we get ultimately to the language is whatever the first millage length is, the intent is, this is a repeating process. We want this to be ongoing so that everyone benefits down the road if they weren't included in the first, however long.
Ongoing, I mean, if we only do it for 6 years, yeah, some people get done and some people, I mean, a goal is, yeah, it's like you're maintaining your house or maintaining your car. Really, it's continuous, it doesn't really
But,
stop.
and this gets into the issues, well, you can't say it's a 30-year millage because you just can't do costs out that long.
Understood, yeah. But we might at some point make a recommendation as to the roads that we would want to chase first.
Yes, and
Based on-
that's one of the later steps,
Yep.
because first we have to figure out
Okay,
next year's roads, and then we'll figure out the first 6 or 8 years for the millage.
Yeah, and then we'll have most of the work done for the future road advisory committee. Yeah,
And you're getting some
Yeah,
people maybe say, you know, why don't we do more than 2 miles, or why don't we only do 1 mile? I mean, there's, you know, this is a starting point, and yeah.
on the previous road advisory, or they were named something different, but they got us to this point because we already have, you know, a schedule, we just need to add more onto it.
24 miles of local gravel roads are in much better condition than they were 10 years ago.
Oh,
I can
yes.
guarantee you that.
Yes, and you know, if you drive other townships,
Mhm.
even Ann Arbor, we have really good roads here.
Well, I guess for me, the answer is, and we've driven some because we've had public comments about them, some of the roads that weren't included that are gravel in the SAD, they really need work.
You know, I live on one of
I
them.
know.
Yeah, I mean, my neighbors are always saying, when are you gonna do our roads? I said,
That's why I think, you know, we've heard them, that's why you want to include all the local roads.
Yes.
Because I mean, last time it's like, okay, we started, but that was a good step, and now I think if we're gonna do this, do all of them. You're not gonna get them all done in 6 years, but at least include all of them, make them all eligible.
And you brought that idea up back in last year when we sat down with Jess.
Right.
And she was on board with that, so I think we can get the rest on board. Okay, go ahead.
Culverts, I think we've talked about them. Basically, there isn't a good way at the moment to predict which ones. So we threw in $100,000 as a plug. I think that's going to be something that comes up on a year by year basis and will have to be dealt with that way.
And the, WCRC has the PACER program or whatever it's called for the culverts, and there's 4 right now. 2 of them will be under that grant. We'll be applying for that second phase of the grant, and then that means we have 2 left over that need attention. They're in fair or poor condition. But then culverts are supposed to last.
Yeah, 40, 50, 60, 70.
Okay. So hopefully that'll be it.
Right. And I mean, if this moves forward, we can refine it, get more information, just as we sort of grab the number as a starting point.
Well, and I do believe, no matter what, if, let's say our culverts are all taken care of, right? We need to have money set aside for capital improvements down the road, just in case. If not, we're scrambling again.
Pedestrian infrastructure and public transportation, we've talked in here, we've talked today about sidewalks. I have no idea how to handle that, so money for sidewalks at the moment is not included in this. Likewise, AATA is not included. That's up for the board to decide what to do with it. So for the sake of argument on this, neither are included in the estimate. So basically the summary, we're doing this and you add up all the details, it comes to, and I hate doing it down to the 1,000 because it makes it seem like it's really well detailed. We're talking 1.36 million a year based on this estimate, or as we talked about, approximately a 0.85 millage on an annual basis.
I think it's a very good example, Bob. The board's gonna want to know why that number, and you spelled it out really clearly here.
I think the key is the last page, which are next steps and open issues. We need clarity. I think this is a board decision. Do you want it 6 years, 8 years, 4 years? Just again, because of the 6 miles of gravel road, 6 made the math really easy to explain. I shamelessly say that's why I picked it, for ease of, but the numbers can easily be changed for 8. The date of the millage is up to the board, whether it's August, or the voting of the millage, August or November.
And Patrick did email the clerk regarding the
Right.
schedule.
Yeah,
And did she get back with him, or were you on that?
I wasn't. She said that was still up in the air. There were pros and cons to either date in her mind. Verbiage for it, we need to sit down. I think we support the township. The township has experts on writing voter proposed villages, but we clearly need to support them. How do we engage the public? That's going to be a joint effort. And how do we communicate? We need to come up with timing for when we think, again, I did this backwards because the millage date determines all sorts of things. When we have to get to the board, when we have to do the public communication, when we need to be done. So these for me are the open items. And I guess the one thing that needs to be in here that I think for those like you who live on the gravel roads that didn't, we assumed we'd hit 1 mile of those 6 every year. Do we want to prioritize getting all 6 done early just because they may need it? But that's an open item.
And we need to have, we already have part of the schedule from the past, the 10 years.
Right.
But we need to have a schedule to give to the board as well.
Could we use Roy's spreadsheet?
Yes, that would be the starting point for the gravel roads. I think the harder item, and I'll look for Roy for his expertise on this, I don't know how we get the age and condition of the paved roads to make any sort of assessment of how we fit them in on a revolving basis.
Well, the road commission does do the PACER evaluations of the pavements.
Okay.
And I did reach out to the road commission. I know at one point we had like a history of when all subdivisions were accepted. So it's like, oh, this is great. but then it only goes back to 2000. Because it'd be helpful to find out when that subdivision was accepted, then we know, let's say it's accepted in 1990, 95, 88, then you know how, we don't have records going back that far. But with the PACER, which is basically evaluation that tells you condition, is it 10's brand new, this, it'll tell you all the way down to, 1, it's a terrible road. With that information, I think the other thing we talked about in our committee is, I think you'd want to, divide the township into like 4 quadrants and say, okay, let's say if we were doing 2 miles of the paved roads, try to spread it. So like, yeah, it'd be nice if we could do that whole subdivision, let's say, the ravines. But if we spent all the money in one subdivision, that means no one else would sort of get theirs done. So I'd say divide it up in just like in the 4 quadrants. So something over here would get a half mile, they'd get a half mile, they'd get a half mile, they'd get a half mile, year 1, and spread it around. So each year, eventually you get around everyone. I mean, the board can decide, let's do all, but it's just when you do that, it's gonna take a lot longer to get all the way around to see all the benefits. And as long as you do like half mile, it's enough for big enough so a contractor can get in and give you a reasonable price. We try to break it up into smaller pieces. And I would think the other thing we'd look at doing is the local gravel subdivision roads, because those are roads that really like a road you live on, and it's Cottonwood, Robinwood, there's all those that really haven't seen gravel in probably since they were built, some of them. I know we did do at the road commission, there's 2 subdivisions, Honey Creek and where Bedendera and Jacob, those people paid for their own SAD. So those subdivisions have had gravel in the last 30 years. Some roads probably haven't had gravel in the last 30 years.
Bandera was 2016, that neighborhood, Saginaw, Liberty Hills.
Yeah. So I think we could get that information and try to develop, some guidelines. It's tricky if we say we're doing, this road, this 0.5, because there's gonna be winners and losers. So I don't know, I mean, we could do it, but do you just want to generalize and say we're gonna do? So let's think about it.
Let's think about it, because again, the board is going to be looking to us each year for the recommendation. I think we can go forward and say we have a 30-mile, how much we put together, because again, the SAD, we had it, and we've, some years for a variety of reasons, we didn't do anything. If we pull it together, that gives, whether it's us or subsequent members of this committee, the ability to say, we got a massive unexpected flood, it washed out this road, we've got to change and move the funding this year to this. I think there's an expectation that on an ongoing cycle, everyone gets done within a 15 or 30-year period. But to be specific and lock it in, that's potentially handcuffing both future board and future road committees.
Well, and also we're talking about certain roads just for the millage, where we possibly could find other funding too. So we should have just the millage plan, but then, let's say we get some extra money, then how do we shift some of those roads over? Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get some, I'll try to put together, and we'll meet with Patrick, Bob, and I, and put some of that together.
So, okay, so, for the next meeting, you said quadrants, I guess, break the township up in quadrants. Should we, maybe that's what we should look at next time? I mean, just focus on. And the other thing is, I wish we knew the schedule of when they. All right, so how should we do this? Because if the board says, oh, this will be on the ballot in November, that'll give us a little bit extra time. But if they say, well, August, I mean, that's still a little bit far out, but that's the election itself, but there's many things that go.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to capture is, we need that date because that starts to set the schedule for everything else, because there's gotta be public meetings, I assume. there's gotta be some sort of supportive documentation. We then have to have everything done to give the board a recommendation well in advance of all of that, so that they can get those scheduled and the information's available. So yes, that's August or November next year is a pretty much we need to know soon item.
Because I think as a township, put it on August, you need to put it before at least minimum, I think, 3 months. So you back that up to, so in April, the township would have to act in their April to put it on, because I think if you do it in May, it's gonna be too late, you know what I'm saying? So it's gotta be action in April. So that means we need to prep the board before the April meeting, so that December, January type thing start, you know, cause it's like, oh, that's a way off, but before you know, you start backing things off and then you
Maybe we
lose.
should put a sentence in there that says we're targeting a decision for this by April of 2024.
Well,
So they've got some way to understand how we're hoping to keep this moving.
well, and the more work we do, and no matter, let's say we do all the work for August, when they say, oh, it's for November, I mean,
We're done.
Yeah, we have all that work, and then.
Yeah, so yeah, why wouldn't we, prepare for August? I mean, there is some talk of the August primary moving up to June too, right?
Yeah, and that's back and forth, they haven't made a decision, and that's gonna screw up a lot of
So,
things.
yeah, and then it moves it back to March. So yeah, so I guess I think that we could prepare for August, and if they move it to November, that just gives us extra 3 months to, you know, continue education, but yeah, maybe that's what we plan that situation.
So right now, what is most important for this committee to get prepared? Because let's just shoot for August. Let's just do the earlier, I mean, or June. I mean, we could put that on ourselves just in case. So we're gonna need, it still has to go in front of the board for approval. So the one thing that they do want is a plan, like a schedule of the different roads. So that's probably the number one thing to work on, because you have.
We know roughly the cost, yeah, we can
Yeah,
do the schedule,
right.
I guess the one, do we know what we're doing next year?
Well, then we have to dovetail in with whatever the road commission's got.
Well, we don't have any money next
Do we
year.
have any money?
Well, that's the thing I was just gonna bring up. So in 2024, we have no money because the funding won't, if the millage does go into effect, won't be until 2025.
Right, it'll be winter.
And so we're asking the board for any of the money out of the general fund.
Well, are there roads that have to be done? Anybody have a sinkhole?
If we don't participate in the county road agreement, we'll miss out on their matching funds, and they'll do very, very little.
100,000 that we could, it doesn't have to go for roads either, right?
Gee, you're right.
Let's focus on that.
We can figure out a schedule. What happens next year may affect that, but if we're targeting, I think Linda had a good idea, if we target to be complete by April, we'll know next year. We can adjust the schedule based on whatever is or isn't decided for 2024 road improvements.
Which we'll know because it's an April 1
Right.
budget.
Yeah.
Question, I mean, in concept, I mean, this committee, this plan makes sense? The way that it's been broken out, because it seems like before we divide up and get into nuts and bolts of the details, I'm wondering, should we take this concept, if we support it, to the board and say, because let's say they say, I'm not gonna support 0.85, or I want things done sooner, or let, you know, because, you know, we developed this refined plan, and then we hear, oh, we don't support 0.85, or we want it done sooner. Should we present this concept to the board and see if we're on the right track before we get into, it's like, oh, we're on that segment of road in 26, this one in 27, that one, and they're like,
I
oh,
think that's a very good idea, and follow up maybe and say, and we're looking then if
To
we
refine it,
this,
but
to
before we-
refine this.
I spend a lot of time telling you exactly what road segment and what year with my subcommittee, and then they find out, you guys are way out, you know, we're not even thinking of doing 0.85, we're thinking 0.5 or something, whatever the number, I don't know what they're, I don't know if, you know, people have an
I
idea.
think that's why they're asking us for this recommendation. I mean, we could,
And again, do they wanna do all the roads? I mean, we've made that assumption, and I think that was clear in the Board of Trustees meeting in May, that yes, but it would be nice, yes, we wanna do all roads. The length of the millage should be however many years, we're gonna do August, whatever, and we like the concept. Yeah.
So tomorrow when I have my meeting with Joyce, these questions that we have, I'm gonna pass them to her and see what she thinks. And then if it needs to be like a draft plan, and this is the beginning, what do you think? Just get some feedback from the board,
But
that
it's
type of thing?
right, or would they have Bob present this to the board in their October blank meeting or November blank meeting, and see
We
if
can
we're on the right track?
We can present, we can approach them individually, I mean, it's.
All right, how about, I'll ask Joyce.
Ask Joyce first thing.
About this presentation, if this should this be presented to the board before?
And the board acted on this before Joyce was here, right?
June 5th, she began, so Mark Thompson was here.
She might not have initial reaction because this wasn't under her,
That's a good point, but
but I'd say, obviously start with her and then we can figure out where.
I mean,
start with
her
her.
opinion's very critical
Exactly.
on all of this.
But depending on what she says, then are we going to act at the next meeting accordingly, or?
well, no matter what, I think we should still work on whatever.
Yeah, we'll continue refining it, but as you get that information, if you can share it with Bob and Patrick and myself, then we can continue to,
Well,
well, it's like,
November,
they want us to present in a meeting in October or November.
they frequently only have one meeting in November, so.
Oh, for the election.
Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Oh, right.
Although it's
Forgot
the
about the holiday.
It's the 14th and the 28th, so it misses the holiday entirely. It's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't fall in that week.
They want us to work. 14th and 28th.
Of November.
And then there's also the last October 24th. Okay, but, and then get back with Walsh to keep you Bob separate now. Patrick and Roy, okay.
in town, or are you gonna be out of town any of those meetings in October and November? At least at this point in time.
At this point in time, I should be around.
Okay.
I've gotta get back east to help out my parents at some point. But that hasn't been set yet.
Well, you have the dates for the meeting, so we can, okay. Are we set on this one, on this item? For now?
Yes,
The
thank
more
you.
specific we can be clear to the board about what our expectations for their action is, the more successful we will be. So adding a cover letter or something on the front of it that says, this is what we're, what we've got, this is what we're looking for.
Right, that's why I think those things, those questions at the end, specifically, put those specifically in a form of a question.
Since we're not having work sessions, yet, trying to get them to do work sessions, but, they will not be working on this, so whatever we present to them, they're gonna read it and give their opinions and we'll go from there, but
It's a pretty well baked cake already, I think, it's a very well formulated argument that they can decide that they want to take it in a different direction or they can move with it.
everybody in agreement? Should we do a vote on this or are we,
Well, if we vote and Joyce says go ahead, then we can go ahead. If we don't vote, then we have to wait till the next meeting. I don't know.
What would we go down?
well, I guess we're not really, we're just in
This is just
agreement that
information.
we're gonna have this
Sharing,
conversation.
exactly.
We're not voting on the the plan and.
No, this is
when
just
we get to that
information
point.
sharing and do they like the concept?
Okay. Are we finished with this topic for tonight?
So,
Okay. The next is, and thank you for your work on this. It's a lot of detail. G3, Special Assessment District Policy. So as we talked about before, with the special assessment policy, this would be for the roads. Let's say you have a gravel road and you want to pave it or want it paved, of course, then they would have to go through the special assessment process because we're not going to use the millage money to pave those roads. Also, private roads, if, of course, by law, we can offer a special assessment to private roads if they don't want to fund it themselves upfront. And, you know, HOAs, if they're a good HOA, they will hold money back until they, you know, capital improvement type thing. So this would just basically be for those two areas. Now with private roads, they fall under Public Act 139. As well as if you, in the Public Act 139, it makes reference to the procedures in 188, but 139 private roads, they have their own rules. And one of the rules is, or one of the law, or part of the law is that the private roads, the township cannot fund a special assessment for more than 5 years with a private road. They have to, now at that 5-year mark, they can extend it, but that's, so we have to make sure that's in the policy somewhere. And Ian, you give us some background on what you had. It's been a while because we're kind of in with this whole manager and, you know, all of this other.
We had an original draft SAD proposal that I think really related into the old SAD and was provisioning money based on people applying, being the first to apply within a year, and it was all seemed a little bit dodgy if we recall. I have a document if we want to bring it up. And I think we hit a roadblock because of the SAD kind of coming to a natural end and just not really there being any clarity on whether or not we needed the SAD. That kind of goes in tandem with Bob's presentation of, are we going to fund all the gravel roads and all the roads? And if we do, why do we need an SAD? So I just kind of stopped working on it. And then the last meeting, we kind of, Bob and I were tasked with coming up with a new policy. So my apologies that you've got this draft document today. That's because I only really got to it today. But what I've got, it actually came from Bloomfield Township. So it's not like I'm going to sit and pretend that I've written this document. I didn't. I cribbed what they had. And then David Reed got involved in translating it over to Scio Township. And then today I kind of went through and just reformatted the document, made some kind of some fixes to some of the errors. And so we have basically a new SAD draft policy. I thought there may be something in there about 5 years, Jillian. I can't honestly remember. I'm sharing my screen still because this is not, basically, it's not in the packet or anything. So it's only right that I kind of, you know, do a mea culpa and put it up on the screen. And we can, of course, put it into the next packet. I don't know that I'm comfortable walking through it right now. I did read it, and you know, as a first draft, I thought it was, you know, pretty decent. I wouldn't encrypt it otherwise.
Yeah, the West Bloomfield had something about water and sewer in their utilities, wasn't it? And
That
then you
all came out.
took that out.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I have that document as well if anybody wants to see the original.
I think we go back and look at it, appreciate, we're pulling this together, and I agree. When we first came, it was like, oh, we needed to get this resolved. Then afterwards, we said, really, we're gonna look at the bigger picture. Do we really wanna continue doing this for all 30 miles, so, local subdivision roads? And then it became less, sort of like, now we're refining it for where it would be applying. And, Act 139 for, 5 years, that's because it's more maintenance. So you wouldn't be paving someone's road to be, adding gravel, grading and dust control. So that's why I think it's a 5 years. So 5 years is fine. I mean, that's what you're doing, you do maintenance. If they really want that road paved, I think then you'd probably fall under.
well, if it's a public road that they want paved, of course, that we can have that for 8, 10 years or whatever it is. But for private roads, yeah, I included.
But I think if you wanted to do paving of a private road, why couldn't you still use Act 188?
Well, you read 139, it's for municipalities or townships to provide special assessments for private roads. And in there, it makes reference to follow the procedures or whatever in Public Act 188. But if you look on, sorry, I just had it in front of me. Yeah, so procedures and requirements, the making of improvements or the maintenance of private roads and the creation of special assessment districts and the assessments levied to be placed upon the tax roll of the township shall be in accordance with the procedures and requirements of 188. But then where's the? But this applies first to private roads because it's a specific statute for private roads. And then 188 is the procedure or the procedures and requirements. Sorry, I'm looking, I have.
I think,
Yeah,
I'm not
well-
an attorney, but yeah, 88 is more public improvements. I mean, the title is public improvements. It's a lot.
yes.
A lot of things are in this.
And it's for
Yeah.
public, so with private, we can't use public funds or, I mean, it's
Right.
different, so this
But you
is why
could use
there's
Act 188 to do a private road SAD.
yes. Well, at least the procedures and requirements, but the 139 is specifically for private roads. But, you just said something.
But this is the policy, a policy specific that we've been searching for. Can we all go through it and try it?
Yeah, so you wanna do this tonight or?
No, for
No.
the next meeting.
For the next meeting, I was gonna, okay.
It's homework.
They give me a heart attack. Yeah, let's do that. Read through it. Also, Bob, I gave Patrick my MTA book.
Yes,
Did you bring that?
I did not, but I can bring it tomorrow, so it's here for you.
Well, now, do you want to keep the millage part of it? Because there's the special assessment and then the millage in the back. Would that be helpful for you? Because the special assessment part can go to Ian and Bob.
I will make copies of anything I need for the millage, and then since you're right across the street, I'll walk it over to you.
Right, yeah, I found that really helpful. I mean, it's an easy read.
Would be an interesting question, this Act 139 of 72. How many townships, I mean, sometimes the state passes legislation. How often is this thing ever used?
Well, Jim Fink sent us a memo like last year about 139, so there was a change with the funding.
Right, they changed a lot, but I'm just wondering, does this happen twice a year, once every 10 years? I mean, it'd just be interesting, is anyone using this act to do maintenance? Because, 188 would cover it, so you could just have 180 do this. There's two acts doing the same thing, so why?
Well, but there's other,
So we'll read it, but I'm just asking,
The duration of the program is not to exceed 5 years in scope, and assessment districts shall not be assessed for a period longer than 5 years. So we have to follow this for private roads. And I think it's because of the funding, the money is public.
Right, but we could just do 188 for that private road. I mean, why would we engage in 139?
Because this is the statute for private roads.
But 188 allows you to do private roads.
Well, we can talk to legal.
Yeah, let's not get over
Yeah, because
This comes after though, this is 1972, so surely it takes precedence. I'm not legal, so.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I'll-
They
you know-
did it afterwards for some reason, but then they did it afterwards, now 50 years ago, and is it relevant anymore?
Well, let's
Well,
review
yeah,
what
but
we
there's a third option for private roads to be funded. You could do based on taxable value. That's a possibility where it wasn't before, as of last year. So it's still, all right, let me, I will talk with, I don't know which attorney, but I'll figure it out.
Okay.
And speaking of, the Township Revolving Fund, Improvement Fund, we did receive, a response from Mike Homier regarding that. And that, I did mention it to, Joyce to give that to Bob Stites, because when I emailed Mike back in June, I CC'd Bob. So he should have that response as well, but it has to go through Joyce.
Minutes?
Thanks again.
So we're on to what, new business?
Yes, there were no new business,
Approval of minutes, sorry.
approval of the minutes, yes. Then we're going to, sorry, I'm just making here, okay, the minutes from September 6th. Any changes? I always find them to be thorough.
I wasn't there, so I can't say anything, so. But good.
So do we, just a voice vote? Oh, can do that.
I don't think I could do a motion when I wasn't there.
You still have to, even if you haven't, if you were missing. I know, I try to get away with not doing
I'll move
minutes.
the minutes. I wasn't here, but I'll move the minutes.
I'll second.
We can do a voice.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, let's see. Oh, reports,
21 reports, yeah.
questions or comments? Okay, Linda, I have a question for you. So I know Dino Drive, they've been talking about Dino Drive again. And it came in front of I think even, did Will bring this up at the board? Yes, he did.
Probably.
So it has to do something about, the DDA is requesting RAC, a special assessment special assessment for Dino Drive and only half of the cost of the improvements?
Because the DDA had already committed to pay half of the improvements in their 2023 budget.
And do we know how much it is?
Right off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I don't, but I. Yeah, it's about $119,000 or something.
Yeah, that's what I'd say, 120-ish, 125.
And when were those numbers, when did they assess how much this would be?
That came from the Washington County Road Commission. You know, commercial roads, public roads. Repair recommendation from 2022.
I think it was updated in 23.
And
but-
then updated in 23 to be the same number.
Same number, okay, I was just
And
wondering
so
about
since
inflation.
the DDA had committed to pay half, and they were originally at that point looking to the property owners to volunteer to make an SAD, which never was able to be pulled together. We're now requesting that the Board of Trustees initiate an SAD for this road.
Mhm.
The other alternatives have been exhausted. This is the next alternative.
Okay, so all right, here's another question for the manager. Do we, the road advisory committee, who does this? Would it be the manager? I mean, if we had a project manager.
Project manager was just assessed. It's a commercial, it's a commercial road, and we're private roads, so it doesn't
Yeah, I
fall
mean,
into the local roads
through the
advisory.
township manager, the project manager, I mean, it's more than DDA. I guess I'm not sure. Our role's been pretty limited on roads within the DDA as far as the roads advisory committee.
Right. And that was another discussion, a couple DDA meetings ago, I think, that it was brought up that, because I know the DDA has been talking about taking over the whole area, but then it's kind of back and forth. And I did ask Bob Stites about that, because if they want to do their own roads, then fine. But if not, then collaborate with us. And then what does that mean? Does this mean that, if there's a special assessment, that we do that? Or if those roads are public, would that fall under, the millage?
Yeah, the millage isn't gonna be till 2025. If you wanna do it sooner, then
But this may not be a sole project. It would surprise me if we had other projects in the future that were badly deteriorated roads.
Many drive.
Where the road commission felt that it needed to be improved, the owners did not want to pony up, so they needed a little.
yeah, no, I'm just saying this one specifically, timing.
And Medi Drive, the pickleball, they're getting pretty close, but that road is
It's been
worse
bad
than,
for years.
yeah.
Well, in theory, those 60 miles of local roads include roads in the DDA.
Yes, the
Yeah.
language we have does.
There are local roads, it's just a local local business route. And we've most part would just stay away, but the reality is if there was a township-wide millage, I think it's a decision by the township board, but there are local roads. They could exclude them, but they could be included. Maybe that's quite another question for the township.
Well, but that falls back under the DDA as well, doesn't it?
At this time, I can't formally speak as a DDA representative, I can say as a member of the DDA, it's my understanding that we do not have a mechanism to do a special assessment.
No, right, no, the township would have to do that, but
DDA roads included in the 30 miles of paved roads.
yes, that's what we need to know.
And
Yeah.
if they are, the question is, should they be?
I'm happy to bring that question directly to the DDA, but just met.
When's your next meeting?
Now, a whole other month.
But this is just changing math. This isn't a stop the show.
In reality is 0.85, it was 0.85 mils. the DDA, the district, it would generate a fair amount of money. So to exclude those roads and force them to pay, okay, business owners, you're gonna have to fund it somewhere else. And we're gonna take your money and spend it on all the neighborhood roads. Might be not real pro-business.
Yeah, because they capture 50% within the DDA area?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we need to run the math and figure out. So let's say the DDA taxable value is blank, whatever that number is, 0.85 mils, even if they capture 50% goes, you know, if you split it all out, does that amount to $40,000 a year or $400,000 a year? I really don't know, but that's where you could sort of, somebody could run the numbers and say, oh, it does make sense that, yeah, we should probably invest the money that's collected from the DDA back into the DDA. And not that it has to be dollar for dollar, but it doesn't seem like it'd be quite fair to take all their money and spend it in the neighborhood.
I think that I can say that the DDA feels fairly strongly that DDA funds should be spent on DDA.
Okay, so we need to get clarity on.
I will certainly ask the question at our next meeting, which will be in November, if the DDA considers that the DDA roads are a part of the overall proposed millage in Scio Township, or if the DDA feels they should be excluded, and can we do the math?
So they would still, the DDA captures all millages except for schools and something else? Is that right? Does
Yeah,
any-
it's been a while, so yeah.
Okay, so I know for schools for sure.
Is where we
It's the incremental increase. You know, let's say the taxable value for the development's going in next to Tractor Supply. So let's say that lane was valued at $10 million. After this development happens, it's, you know, occurring right now, it's gonna be worth more than $10 million. It's gonna be worth $30 million. I'm just grabbing numbers. So that incremental, so let's say it's a $20 million increase. That's where they start, that's their capture. So that's how they bring that money in. So that's how it works. But if you were to pass a millage on roads, whatever, I'm not sure how that capture works. So yeah, that's the legal question. Who can run those numbers to find out, you know?
Maybe that is illegal. Well, and I know that, are
Or
you,
financials, really, it's just the financial, who don't?
yeah,
Who does the financial?
Sandy. We certainly can bring it up at the next meeting. We have just voted as the DDA to have our own legal counsel. So.
do you know who that is yet?
The specific person, no, I do not.
Okay.
The firm, yes, I do. So, we could propose that be an initial question, but I don't know the area of expertise that individual is contracts or is it villages, or this may be a question that wants to go back to Mike Homier. And because of his deeper knowledge of. Let me ask the question.
You know, and I think that maybe, yeah, because this is there's a lot of parts to it. Yeah, okay.
For our overall proposal, like when Patrick told us, he talked with Jessica, she said the township through someone else would handle figuring out all the money and how it moves about.
Right, because how it would be collected, how with it, you know, because here again, that 1.6, you know, is it 1.65, is it 1.7, you know, all those things.
How's
You need to, all those, at some point, refine all that, and then you can also figure out, you know,
DDA impact?
in DDA impact, and all those things, so. We're at this point.
Right, because if they're taking whatever money for roads from our millage, but then we're,
Yeah, it's an open item.
right.
Let's just leave it at
This
that
is-
for tonight.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, and I do have to share regarding the special assessments. The assessing department and the finance department are so glad that we are not doing special assessments, or we're doing very little special assessments because it is a nightmare for them. So that's a bonus, I guess. Keep our staff happy. Okay, let's see, anything else? We have, oh, any other comments and reports? Nope. Okay. Then let's move to no educational information and public comment. Bob?
Let me get up to the stand. Boy, we have raised hands. Anne, would you like to, go
Thank you.
Turn on? Thank you.
I wasn't gonna say this, but I'm gonna say it now. Rob Pattinson is coming home from the hospital tomorrow, and we're thrilled. So, I wanted to point out that ASI, Asphalt Specialist Inc., there was bid rigging, US against Dan Israel, and there was another company in, I think it was June, F Allied Construction Company, also bid rigging. Actually in the US versus Dan Israel, it states number 7, during the period covered by this information, potential customers solicited bids from providers of asphalt paving services. Potential customers typically required bids from at least 2 or more providers of asphalt paving services and rewarded contracts for asphalt paving services after first reviewing and evaluating the bids submitted by the asphalt paving service providers. Based on how these people are going to jail, it looks like the court case talks about Company A and Company B, where they were working with each other to rig the prices. So this is something that if we could have a manager take care of this, that would certainly be good, so that you guys aren't having to learn about all these things. And I'm looking forward to Bob Hyde next month. Congratulations in advance. All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Just for clarification, ASI is one of the companies that we have used for SADS. Merlin Way, they did a terrible job. I just drove down there today and I guess the sides were, and then also they did another one. Was it Westview Way or was it Daleview? Daleview, yeah. They had the better bid, and we had nothing to do with that. I mean, that was, I think Washington Engineering was overseeing both of them.
They were acting as the township liaison.
Okay.
And the project manager.
Yes, that's right. Anybody else? Any other hands?
I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, well, let's see, the clock is wrong. What time is it?
8:19.
8:19?
8:19, nearly 8:20.
All in favor of adjournment? Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess we needed to, but
Easier.
has anybody in the history of meetings ever said no to adjourning? I mean, I would love to see that.
I have been to a board of trustees meeting where someone objected to adjourning.
Recording
because
stopped.
The issues had been fully addressed.